All right, Mike, here we go. Kicking off the late pick 5 at Gulfstream Park, Saturday, January 7th. Happy 2023, everybody. Race 7, the Dania Beach Stakes. 7 3-year-old colts going a mile on the turf. A favorite, number 2, Major Dude at 8-5. But where are you going on top?
This is interesting. We've never had one of these before. The 4-horse Congruent is a Stable 'em Up horse out of the Pulpit Stakes on December. The Stable 'em Up video over on YouTube on the Racing Dudes channel, December 14th. If you want to go check that out and get the full breakdown. Congruent was first time on the turf that day. They tried to get him on turf 3 back. The race rains off, ends up winning that race, and then going to the Breeders Cup Juvenile on the dirt. Faces 3 very good horses in that spot. Then comes back to that turf stakes, the Pulpit, and had a ton of trouble in the first turn. Ari Gold ends up winning that race, going gate to wire, a very good horse who has a bright future. And in the first turn, Congruent just gets boxed in. You'll see a big-time checks out of third, all the way back to 6th. And then around the second turn, we're going into it, gets squeezed out between the 2 and the 6 horse, loses the inside path, has to check back to 5th, and then rally up the rail, ends up just missing 2nd in that race. And oh, by the way, they went 24-2 in the opening quarter. So not really easy to close into that type of pace at Gulfstream. This just seems like a horse that wants the turf, is going to be better on the turf, had a ton of trouble last time out. And here we are sitting at a 5-1 price. I love the Congruent. I love the 4 Congruent on top here.
Yeah, I went too deep here. Wasn't my top pick, but definitely beat out the other horses that I had considered. We talked about the tough trip. The horse, so Ari Gold was a heavy favorite, 1 gate to wire. Second place was already a stakes winner routing on synthetic. You had horses behind him that were also stakes winners, 2 other horses. So it was a very good, especially for not being a championship meet stakes, because it was only December 10th when the race was held. It was a very, very good field that he was facing there. And the highest time form figure in the entire field belongs to Congruent for that Pulpit effort. So that's higher than Major Dude, who's won a graded stakes on turf and was in the Breeders' Cup. That's higher than my top choice, the number 7 Worthington, who is 2 for 2 at this 2-turn mile distance, including last time out with Luis Saez aboard. You hyped up your Stable 'em Up, which, by the way, it's in the chat. You can see the link is there. You can go look at but Mike's full Stable 'em Up video. But I also really liked Worthington because of that effort in the Stars of Tomorrow 2 card at Churchill Downs. They only had a couple turf races, so you know that they've got a ton of horses that'll look in Kentucky looking for good turf purses. They all faced Worthington, and Worthington beat him pretty well. He's got the tactical speed to sit close and pounce. Gulfstream Park's turf course tradition plays well to speed. I think there's cheap speed in here. You could see the 5 probably quit out pretty soon. The 3 might go, or the 1 likes to be on the lead, but is not very fast. So I don't know what they're going to do with that horse. I think the 7 is going to be a great position to sit and pounce. And Saez riding for Maker just tells me that this horse has got a ton of ability, steadily improving buyers all 3 starts. I think it's all systems go.
Yeah, I have the 7 as my second pick here. I agree with you. I like the outside post here. Generally, I don't want an outside post in these 7.5 furlong races or mile races on the turf at Gulfstream. But with just 7 horses, it's not bad, especially considering, and you hit the nail on the head, the 1, the 3, and the 5 all kind of want to be forwardly placed. So you'd expect to see all 3 of them forwardly placed and kind of hitting the go button there. I expect the 7 to get a fairly good trip sitting right behind them. The question really is going to be where the 2 Major Dude is and how far back Congruent is. But I don't think the 7 is going to be any more than 2 wide on that first turn, tracking 3 horses who are going to be out there setting a pretty good pace, all of which I agree with you are cheaper speed. And at Gulfstream, if you have cheap speed, but there's only 1 of them, they're very dangerous. When there's 3 of them, you'd expect there's going to be some type of hookup up there and set it up for much better horses that are coming from off the pace. I also love the progression from Worthington here. I mean, 3 starts, 63 buyer, 70 buyer, 82 buyer, faced a good field 2 or 3 back at Kentucky Downs, first time out going 7 furlongs, came back, breaks the maiden at Keeneland, comes back right to Churchill Downs and two lifetime allowance and wins right there. So faced pretty quality fields, even for the levels that we were looking at. I mean, that's Kentucky Downs, Keeneland, Churchill, very good fields in those spots. So I was 4-7 as my top 2 picks. So I agree with you on the 7 there. I'm going to include the 6 horse as well. So Zach, who is first time here in North America for Grand Motion, gets Rosario up, a horse that showed some closing ability overseas. And to me, kind of the wild card of the bunch here, right? We talk about knowns and unknowns. This horse is definitely the unknown of the field. I'm interested to see what the price is going to be. 9-2 on the morning line, I think, is probably a little bit of a pipe dream. I think we're staring more at 3-1, maybe 7-2, somewhere in that range. But look at that last race. At Longchamp in France, $294,000 allowance. 16 horses. That's a pretty impressive race to come out of, to come into the United States. A lot of times we see like, oh, they won a $10,000 maiden in Ireland and now they're coming over, right? This is a big time horse, run 7 times, 3 wins, 2 seconds, 2 thirds, never missed the board. I like this 6 here at a sneaky bit of a price. So I'm going to end up 3 deep here. I'm going to go with a 4, 6, 7. Try to get around the 2, Major Dude, who probably will be your favorite, and I don't think deserves to be your favorite in this spot.
Not like 98% of that horse's Suzak, his purse earnings came from that one race. And it's funny, that race, so he ended up in Grand Motion's care hours after that race was done. He was in a sale at Arcana, and they paid $392,000 for this horse and then brought him over. And Grand Motion's actually quoted as saying the plan was to go to the Breeders Cup Juvenile Turf with him, and the horse just got sick. But they thought the timing was going to be right. He was informed for it. This is literally the last horse off my ticket. I think it would have been like a $96 ticket instead of $72 for me. You've got Kodiak as a sire as a sprinter overseas, but the dam sire is Naif, who was a multiple group stakes champion going 10, 12 furlongs. So you've got speed on top, stamina on the bottom. I think this is a horse that when we get to like say Preakness weekend, this horse I think is definitely probably going to be favored, but it's probably going to be a big stakes candidate. Preakness weekend at Pimlico, I'm just not so sure that I honestly, Mike, what it was, the time form ratings, his overseas ratings, when you translate it into buyers, puts him right there where the 1 is at. But you're getting Rosario. It is Grand Motion. He has had success bringing horses in first time North America and putting them straight into stakes races. So watch the tote on this one. I was with you. I think that maybe he's going to get bet a little heavily, and that kind of scared me off him a little bit. But Rosario not only riding him, Rosario was working this horse at Palm Meadows recently. So he knows what this horse is capable of doing. Definitely caught my attention when I saw that. Let's talk real quick before we move on. Neither of us are touching the favorite Major Dude here. My biggest reason, I think he's going to get hammered way beyond what he should be. He won the Pilgrim. So people will say, well, he's got a grade 2 win, going 2 turns on turf. And then he was in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf, where, yes, he had a very wide trip both times. I looked at the Pilgrim field, Mike. 8 rivals from that race have run back. Only one of them has hit the board, and it was a maiden who was in the Pilgrim, then got third in a maiden special weight. So it was a very slowly run race. It was an oddly run race. I didn't like Major Dude, especially not at 8-5 here.
Yeah, it was 10-1 in that turf win too, in the Pilgrim. So it was a price in the Pilgrim, jumps into the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf, and I think it's going to get bet off of essentially running in that race. Not necessarily running well in that race, but just being in that race. And for me, when I look at this and I see, honestly, 2 horses in the U.S. that are better than him, he needs to improve to get to either Congruent or Worthington, and an additional unknown horse in Suzak, who that last race, again, I realize that, the workouts haven't been great over synthetic. I get it. Motion 0 for 12, first time North America. I get it. I think he's probably the 4th best horse that we've seen on paper right now. And you're getting 8-5 on the morning line. I think the horse gets around that price as the off odds. I'd be shocked if we're even money on this horse, but I think you're probably going to see, that 7-5, 8-5 range. To me, that's just way too short in a pretty competitive field when you have to improve to be able to get the job done here. So, I went back and forth on Major Dude. I decided this was one of those favorites where I'd rather take a stand against than kind of use defensively here, because I do like the 4. I do like the 7. So I feel like the opinion, you got to back up there and just leave the favorite off.
RacingDudes.com is your home for the best free picks for every race, every track across the country. We're ramping up for the 2023 Kentucky Derby, and we want you to join us in the fun. Subscribe to Racing Dudes YouTube channel and click the notification bell so you never miss a single video. Want to make money betting horses? Bet with the Racing Dudes.